Hello explorers, and welcome back to another dive into the mysteries that challenge everything we think we know about history. Today's video is packed with discoveries that are not just strange, but outright impossible according to our textbooks. From a Roman object that defies explanation, to ancient star maps found where they shouldn't exist, and even rumors of a giant burial hidden beneath Egypt's sands. These aren't fairy tales, these are real archaeological enigmas. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear might rewrite ancient history itself. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone, the artifact that shouldn't exist. If you ever find yourself walking near the quiet shores of Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire, you might not realize that beneath those calm blue waters, one of the strangest mysteries in American archaeology was discovered. A small black, egg-shaped stone that refuses to be explained. It doesn't look like much at first glance, just a smooth piece of quartzite with odd carvings. But the closer you look, the more it starts to feel wrong. Not because of what it is, but because of what it represents. Back in 1872, a group of workers was digging post holes for a fence on a lakeside property owned by a wealthy businessman named Seneca Ladd. As they pulled up dirt, their shovels struck something hard. They brushed away the soil and found an oval stone about 6 inches long, polished like glass, darker than the surrounding earth, and covered with symbols that no one could recognize. It wasn't buried with any pottery, bones, or relics, just sitting there, alone, sealed inside the earth as if it had been hidden deliberately. At first, people thought it was a Native American artifact, but that idea didn't last long. The carvings on it were unlike any local tribal design. On one side, there were strange patterns: arrows, circles, faces, a moon-like crescent, and what seemed to be corn or wheat. On the other side, a spiral, crossed lines, and symbols that looked almost like ancient writing. At both ends were perfectly drilled holes, one straight through, from top to bottom, the other at a right angle intersecting it. Whoever made those holes used precision drilling, the kind of control that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric North America. Even modern experts struggled to reproduce it without steel tools and lathes. So immediately, questions started flying. Who carved this? Why those symbols? And how did it end up here, buried under layers of earth in the middle of New Hampshire? The artifact was quickly dubbed the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone, and Ladd donated it to the New Hampshire Historical Society, where it still rests today in a glass case. Over the decades, countless researchers have examined it, each walking away with more questions than answers. When scientists first studied the drill holes, they found something shocking. The precision was incredible. Both holes had a uniform diameter, smooth internal walls, and no sign of flaking. Under magnification, microscopic grooves showed that the holes had been made by a rotating drill tipped with a harder material, possibly even diamond. But that kind of tool wouldn't appear until thousands of years later. So, if not a native artifact, then what? Some said it was Celtic, others claimed Phoenician. There were even whispers of Egyptian influence because of the hieroglyph-like carvings. The truth is, it fits none of them perfectly. The stone seems to belong nowhere, like it's a piece cut out of another time and dropped into ours by mistake. Let's pause here. Imagine that for a second. The year is 1872. No one has flown a plane. No one has split an atom. The idea of humans existing tens of thousands of years ago in North America was still controversial. And yet, in someone's backyard, an artifact appears that looks like it came from a lost civilization. You can almost picture those workers staring at it in silence, knowing they just unearthed something history couldn't explain. Now, there's a theory that says the stone could have been made in the 19th century as a commemorative gift, maybe even by Seneca Ladd himself. But there's one big problem with that. The level of polish, the complexity of the symbols, the depth of the grooves, none of it matches the tools or styles used by local craftsmen at the time. No other object like it exists. If someone carved it as a hoax or a tribute, they left behind no record, no copy, no explanation. Just this single, flawless artifact. And that's where the story starts to drift into the unknown. Because every time experts test it, the answers get stranger. The quartzite it's made from isn't local to New Hampshire. It would have to come from hundreds of miles away, maybe even outside the continent. That means whoever made it either traveled a vast distance or obtained the material through trade that predates all known routes. Let's think about that symbol of the face carved into one side. It's not a normal face. It has exaggerated eyes, a triangular nose, almost alien-like proportions. Some archaeologists compare it to Mesoamerican art, like the Olmec heads or Mayan masks. Others say it resembles ancient carvings from the Mediterranean. But again, those cultures never reached this far north, unless they did. A few bold researchers have suggested that the mystery stone could be evidence of transoceanic contact long before Columbus. Imagine that! Ancient sailors from distant lands reaching the New World thousands of years ago, leaving behind tiny clues, artifacts that no one knows how to read. This stone could be one of them. Now, skeptics argue that this is just wishful thinking. They say maybe it's just a local ceremonial piece, maybe made to mark a peace treaty or a burial. But the problem remains: the drilling, the perfect symmetry. No primitive stone tool could create that. Even modern electric drills leave different marks. Whoever did this used something we can't explain. One study from the early 2000s used scanning technology to measure the precision of the holes. And they found that they aligned within fractions of a millimeter. That's machining-level accuracy. For something supposedly ancient, that's impossible. Unless those people had technology we don't think existed back then. And then there's the meaning behind the carvings themselves. Each sard tells a story. But what story? Some see it as an astronomical map. Sun, moon, stars, maybe even an eclipse. Others believe it's a timeline, a record of some great event lost to history. The face could represent a god or a visitor. The arrows and dots might indicate travel or migration. But the truth is, no one's cracked it. It sits there, daring us to understand it, as if whoever made it left it on purpose, waiting for the right generation to figure it out. What's even more fascinating is that the stone feels designed to be held. Its oval shape fits perfectly into the palm, smooth and balanced, almost like a ceremonial object, maybe even a key. Some researchers describe it as an ancient hand talisman, something meant to connect the holder with something beyond this world. And here's where the story takes a stranger turn. There's an old legend among some tribes in the region about a gift from the sky, a black stone said to hold the memory of the gods. It was said to be hidden near a lake, buried where the earth remembers. When the Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone was found, some people couldn't help but connect the dots. Could this be the same stone from that legend? Let's be honest, there's no proof. But that doesn't stop the imagination. Because so much about this artifact feels deliberate. The placement, the polish, the mystery around its discovery. It almost feels like someone buried it intentionally, maybe to protect it or to pass a message through time. Even today, under museum lights, it glows faintly, like it's alive. You can see your reflection curve across its surface. Those ancient grooves catch the light like veins of silver. It's haunting. People who visit say it gives off a strange feeling, like it's watching. Now, if we step back and look at the bigger picture, we start to see patterns. Around the world, there are similar anomalies: carved stones, out-of-place artifacts, precision cuts that defy explanation. The Baghdad Battery, the Antikythera mechanism, the Piri Reis map, they all whisper the same thing: that ancient people might have known far more than we give them credit for. The Winnipesaukee Stone might just be the North American chapter of that same forgotten story. Some researchers have even suggested that the holes were used to mount the stone on a stand or base, like a display. Maybe it was part of a larger object, an ancient machine, a ceremonial staff, or even a navigational instrument. Imagine if this small piece was once the centerpiece of something grand, an object that could track the stars or mark the changing of seasons. Others believe the stone might have been a message, something meant for future generations. Maybe those carvings aren't decorations, but data, a coded language carved in symbols instead of words. And maybe, just maybe, we haven't learned how to read it yet. Every few years, new researchers come forward with fresh ideas, but the truth remains sealed. The museum has tested it for everything: tool marks, carbon traces, residue, pigment, but it stays silent. It gives nothing away. It's as if it's mocking us, holding its secret through centuries of human curiosity. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Not every mystery is meant to be solved. Some exist to remind us that history is deeper, older, and stranger than we think. When you stand before the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone, you're not just looking at a rock. You're staring into a void between timelines, a whisper from a forgotten hand, a reminder that the past might not be what we think it is. And every now and then, when you imagine those workers in 1872 wiping dirt from that dark oval stone, you can almost feel what they must have felt. A chill, a spark of awe, that sudden realization that they just touched something from another world. Because maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what they did. The Dropa Stones, mystery buried in the Tibetan mountains, high in the icy silence of the Bayan Karaula Mountains on the border of Tibet and China. An ancient secret was buried for thousands of years. The winds there howl endlessly, carving the cliffs, and even the locals avoid venturing too deep into those valleys. Yet, in 1938, a small team of Chinese archaeologists, led by Chi Pute, dared to enter a series of mysterious caves. They expected to find primitive artifacts or cave paintings, but instead, they stumbled upon something that defied logic. Inside the caves were hundreds of graves, arranged neatly in long rows. The bodies they found were shocking. Small skeletons, only about 4 feet tall, with oversized skulls and delicate, thin bones. They didn't look like ordinary humans. The team also noticed something strange on the cave walls: carvings of the sun, the moon, and countless tiny dots connected with lines, forming what looked like a star map. It was as if whoever lived there had some kind of astronomical knowledge far beyond their time. And then they discovered the objects that would make the site one of the most debated mysteries of all time: 716 circular stone discs, each about 30 centimeters wide and carved from a strange granite-like material. Each disc had a perfect hole in the center, just like a vinyl record. But what truly baffled them were the tiny spiral grooves carved along the surface, grooves that seemed to form an intricate pattern. When they examined the discs more closely, the archaeologists realized those spiral patterns weren't just random scratches. They were microscopic carvings of symbols, an ancient form of writing. But here's the catch: no known ancient culture used that script. It didn't match Chinese, Tibetan, or any known human language. It was completely alien in every sense. Years passed before anyone tried to translate the symbols. Most museums refused to take the discs seriously. Some even dismissed them as a hoax. But in the early 1960s, a Chinese researcher named Dr. Sum Nui managed to partially decode the inscriptions, and what he claimed to have found was unbelievable. According to his translation, the discs told the story of a people who came from a distant planet, their spaceship crash landing on Earth thousands of years ago. The beings called themselves the Drapa. They couldn't repair their craft and were forced to live among the tribes in the mountains. But because of their strange appearance, small bodies, big heads, the local tribes feared them and hunted them. Eventually, the Drapa integrated with the locals, and over generations, their descendants vanished into legend. It sounded like pure science fiction, yet there were physical discs sitting right there as proof. But the controversy didn't end. Many experts refused to believe the translation. They said the story was impossible, that no one had seen these discs after the 1970s, and that records of the original excavation were lost during political turmoil in China. Still, there were photos, a few rare black and white images that showed the discs lined up, each with a small central hole and spiral carvings. Some people who saw them said they gave off a faint metallic hum when placed under certain frequencies, as if they were once part of some advanced technology. Later reports claimed that a few of the discs were sent to Moscow for study. There, scientists allegedly discovered something even stranger: traces of cobalt and other rare metals embedded in the stone. When exposed to electrical charge, the discs vibrated slightly, as if they were storing or conducting energy. That's when the theory changed from archaeology to something far beyond. Perhaps these were not just ceremonial relics, but parts of an ancient information or energy storage device. But if that were true, who made them? Some believed the Drapa stones were a record left behind by an ancient civilization far more advanced than ours. Others connected it to the same unknown builders responsible for the pyramids or the Nazca lines, civilizations that may have had contact with beings from beyond Earth. Skeptics argued there was no solid proof, only rumors, lost research, and mysterious disappearances of evidence. Yet, the stories refused to die. Local Tibetan legends also speak of small, pale-skinned visitors from the sky who lived in the mountains after their heavenly chariot fell from the clouds. The locals described them as wise but fragile, and after many years, their knowledge faded as they mixed with mountain tribes. Even more interesting, in 1995, explorers returning to the same region reported new cave openings revealed by landslides. Some claim to have seen similar discs half buried in the walls, but no official expedition ever confirmed it. It's as if something or someone wants this secret to remain buried. Today, the Drapa stones remain one of the most mysterious discoveries ever made. No museum openly displays them. The caves where they were found are now sealed off, and most official documents have vanished. But the legend still spreads in whispers among researchers and UFO enthusiasts. Could the Drapa stones be the final trace of an ancient extraterrestrial visit? Or were they simply misunderstood creations of an unknown culture that lived in isolation thousands of years ago? Whatever the truth is, those silent discs carved in the cold mountains of Tibet continue to challenge what we know about our history and who might have once walked among us. The Saqqara bird, Egypt's ancient flying secret. In 1898, while excavating a tomb in the massive necropolis of Saqqara, Egypt, a team of archaeologists uncovered something that looked ordinary at first glance. A small, wooden carving covered in dust, roughly the size of a man's hand. It was tucked among papyrus fragments, Shabti figurines, and funeral artifacts. But when one of the archaeologists cleaned it, they noticed something strange. It didn't look like a bird statue. It looked like an airplane. That small 6-inch object would later become known as the Saqqara bird, and more than a century later, it remains one of the most debated and puzzling discoveries in Egyptian archaeology. At first, it was cataloged simply as a wooden bird. It was lightweight, aerodynamic, with wings slightly tilted upward and a body that curved into a tail fin. But it was missing something. No feet, no claws, no perch. It couldn't stand like a statue of a bird normally would, and on its tail, instead of the usual fan-like feathers, there was a vertical rudder, just like the tail of an aircraft. Decades later, when aeronautical engineers examined it, they noticed more details that couldn't be accidental. The wings weren't flat, they were curved to generate lift, just like modern planes. The body was perfectly balanced along the central axis. Even the placement of the tail matched the configuration of early gliders. The ancient Egyptians, it seemed, had carved something that obeyed the same aerodynamic principles we rediscovered only thousands of years later. But this carving was dated to around 200 BCE, more than 2,000 years before the Wright brothers' first flight. So how could that be possible? Was it coincidence, or had the ancient Egyptians known more about flight than we ever imagined? When the artifact was tested in the 1960s, a researcher named Dr. Khalil Messiha, an Egyptian physician and flight enthusiast, made a bold claim. He said the Saqqara bird wasn't just symbolic, it was a model of an ancient flying machine. He even called it the first aircraft. Dr. Messiha built a scaled-up version of the bird, added a small horizontal stabilizer to replace what might have been a broken tail section, and tested it in a wind tunnel. The result shocked everyone. The model actually flew. It glided through the air with remarkable stability. No wild spinning, no crashing. Just a smooth, balanced flight path, as if it was designed for it. Skeptics argued that the test proved nothing. They said the ancient Egyptians carved birds all the time, that this one just happened to look aerodynamic. But others pointed out that no other known Egyptian bird carving had such precise aerodynamic proportions. In fact, its shape matched not any known species of bird, but the design of modern sailplanes. So what if this wasn't a coincidence at all? What if the Saqqara bird was a clue, evidence that the ancient Egyptians understood the principles of flight long before modern civilization? We know the Egyptians were master engineers. They built pyramids that aligned perfectly with celestial constellations, temples with mathematical precision, and even complex water systems deep underground. But flight? That would change everything. Ancient texts and hieroglyphs often mention the boat of Ra, the sun god who sailed across the sky each day. Some researchers believe those myths weren't just spiritual metaphors. They could have been memories of real flying craft witnessed by early Egyptians, technology that later became mythologized as the gods' chariots of the heavens. Even stranger, other ancient cultures have similar stories. In India, the Vimanas were flying chariots described in texts thousands of years old. In Mesoamerica, carvings depict what appear to be pilots seated in capsules surrounded by flame-like exhaust. Could the Saqqara bird be Egypt's version of that same forgotten knowledge, a remnant of a global technology lost to time? Still, archaeologists remain divided. Mainstream scholars insist it's a toy, or perhaps a ceremonial object meant to represent the soul's flight in the afterlife. They point out that the artifact was found in a tomb, surrounded by funerary goods, so it could symbolize spiritual ascension. In ancient Egyptian beliefs, the soul, or Ba, was often depicted as a bird with a human head. So maybe it was a model to help the soul fly into the next world. But if that's true, why does it follow the exact rules of aerodynamics, something the Egyptians shouldn't have known. There's another layer of mystery too. The wood used to make the bird came from sycamore fig, a common material in ancient Egypt. But it's fragile and doesn't preserve well. That means there might have been many more such carvings that simply disintegrated over time. If the Saqqara bird survived by chance, it could be the last remnant of an entire collection, or even of an experimental project lost in the sands of history. Some researchers have even speculated about ancient gliders or lightweight flight experiments that used papyrus reeds or linen stretched over wooden frames. In an age when Egyptian engineers already mastered water transport, geometry, and mechanics, experimenting with air travel might not have been as impossible as we assume. Then there's the deeper question: where did the idea come from? The Egyptians recorded everything, from construction methods to rituals, yet no inscription mentions flight. Some suggest the knowledge came from an older civilization that existed before Egypt's recorded history. Legends of Atlantis, or the mysterious Zep-Tepi, the first time when gods ruled the earth, speak of beings who descended from the sky and taught early humans science, astronomy, and architecture. Maybe, just maybe, they also taught them the secrets of flight. Others take a more scientific approach. They argue that the design might have been inspired by observing birds of prey like hawks and falcons gliding effortlessly over the Nile. Ancient artisans, known for their attention to nature, could have carved what they saw, not realizing they were mirroring aerodynamic principles that modern physics would later define. Either way, the Saqqara bird refuses to fit neatly into any box. It sits quietly today in the Cairo Museum, displayed in a small glass case. Thousands of tourists walk past it every year, often without realizing that they're looking at one of history's most intriguing anomalies. A 2,000-year-old relic that might hold evidence of forgotten technology. What makes the mystery stronger is what's missing. There are no similar models, no ancient blueprints, no hieroglyphs explaining its purpose. Just this one single piece of wood, perfectly balanced, shaped like a modern aircraft, and found in one of the oldest tombs on Earth. Even modern engineers who've studied it admit, if someone gave me this design and told me it came from a few centuries ago, I'd believe it. But from 200 BCE? Impossible. So what do we do with that kind of impossibility? Do we dismiss it as coincidence? Or accept that our ancestors may have been far more advanced than we think? If we line up all these anomalies, the pyramid's precision, the Baghdad battery, the Antikythera mechanism, and now the Saqqara bird, a strange pattern emerges. Civilizations thousands of miles apart, separated by oceans and centuries, all showing glimpses of technology far ahead of their time. Were they all independently experimenting with science? Or inheriting lost knowledge from a single source? The Saqqara bird seems to whisper an unspoken truth. Something was happening in the ancient world, something that doesn't fit in our textbooks, something that suggests the story of human innovation might stretch much further back than we ever dared to imagine. Maybe this little wooden figure isn't just a toy, not just art, not just a symbol. Maybe it's a survivor, a surviving memory of the skies. And perhaps the reason we can't explain it is simple. We're not looking at the past through the same eyes as those who lived it. They might have seen the heavens not as myth, but as a challenge, a frontier they once reached and then lost to time. Today, it sits quietly in its glass case, watching us from behind its reflection, the carved wings of something that once might have soared over the sands of Egypt. And every time someone stops and stares, that little wooden bird asks the same silent question: what if we were never the first to fly? The Baigong Pipes, China's impossible metal mystery. High in the barren mountains of western China lies a place few dare to visit. It's dry, desolate, and silent, almost otherworldly. The locals call it Mount Baigong. But beneath its lonely slopes, something impossible has been found. Hidden inside caves and running through solid rock are hundreds of ancient metal pipes, some embedded deep within the mountain itself. They twist, turn, and branch like veins of steel running through stone. But the real question is, who put them there and when? At first glance, it looks like the remains of some ancient industrial structure. Some of the pipes lead deep into a cave that opens toward the vast, shimmering Qinghai Lake. Others are buried in the surrounding terrain, poking out of the sand like fragments of a forgotten machine. But here's where it gets strange. The pipes are ancient. When Chinese scientists tested them, their age defied logic. They were said to be around 150,000 years old. That's not just before modern technology. It's long before recorded human civilization itself. Let that sink in. A network of iron-like pipes, thousands of years before the invention of metal smelting. How could that exist? The discovery came to light in the early 2000s, when a group of researchers was investigating strange geological formations near the Delingha region. They expected rocks, fossils, and mineral veins. But instead, they found a cave system lined with metal. The pipes were of varying sizes, some thick as a human arm, others no wider than a straw. And they weren't random. They seemed to be arranged with purpose, forming a system that looked engineered. When the samples were tested, the results confused everyone. The pipes were composed mostly of iron, but also contained trace elements like silicon, calcium, and even rare metals. Even stranger, part of the metal had oxidized, turning into a material that resembled rust, but the pattern of oxidation didn't match natural corrosion. It looked like controlled heating or manufacturing. But who, 150,000 years ago, was manufacturing metal pipes? The Chinese Academy of Social Sciences sent investigators to study the phenomenon. Some scientists suggested that the pipes might be fossilized tree roots or a natural mineral formation, something that looked artificial but wasn't. But geological analysis quickly broke that theory apart. The pattern of the pipes, their hollow interiors, their even spacing, all pointed to deliberate construction. And then came the detail that sent this story spiraling into mystery territory. When some of the pipes were cut open, their interiors were smooth, almost polished. Others showed circular markings, as if something had bored through them at high speed. A few even formed perfect right angles. It was as though they had been shaped using machines that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric China. One geologist described it best: "If this is natural, then nature is a better engineer than we are." So what are the explanations? Let's explore a few. The first theory claims these pipes were part of an ancient water system, maybe remnants of a lost civilization long before the dynasties of China. The pipes could have carried water or gas between the caves and the lake. Supporters of this theory point to how some of the pipes lead directly into Qinghai Lake itself, suggesting a possible flow or drainage mechanism. But for that to be true, we'd have to accept that an advanced civilization existed in China over 100,000 years ago, something mainstream archaeology rejects. Then there's the extraterrestrial theory. According to local legend, Baigong Mountain was once home to a massive pyramid-like structure, possibly built by beings from the sky. Some ancient alien theorists believe the pipes were part of a power or propulsion system, remnants of an ancient landing site. In fact, the area has long been associated with UFO sightings and mysterious lights in the night sky. To believers, the pipes weren't human-made at all. They were technological relics left behind by visitors from beyond Earth. However, not everyone agrees with these wild interpretations. Some geologists argue the pipes might be the result of a rare natural process called iron concretion, where groundwater carrying iron particles seeps through rock, leaving behind tube-like deposits as it hardens. But even this explanation struggles with the regularity and pattern of the bygone formations. Natural processes are chaotic. These pipes are not. They run in straight lines, connect at angles, and sometimes even branch like a blueprint. The more you dig, the stranger it gets. When a piece of one pipe was tested in a Beijing laboratory, scientists found traces of organic matter, plant material. It suggested the pipes might have once been living roots that somehow absorbed metallic elements over thousands of years. But that still didn't explain the geometric patterns, or why some pipes led deep into solid rock where no roots could have grown. It's as if the mountain itself was built around them. Locals have their own stories. For generations, herders and villagers spoke of strange lights appearing over the mountains at night. Glowing orbs that hovered, then disappeared. They said the mountain was cursed, that the pipes were the veins of metal gods buried beneath the earth. When the story went public, tourists and journalists flooded the region, but the site was quickly restricted by local authorities. Today, Baigong Mountain is heavily monitored, and access to the cave is limited. Why the secrecy? Some say it's because there's nothing there, just an overblown legend. Others whisper that scientists discovered something they couldn't explain and decided to keep it quiet. The truth, for now, remains locked inside the mountain. Imagine if those pipes were in fact ancient technology. Maybe not alien, but human. Could they belong to a civilization wiped out long before the first pyramids were built? A forgotten age of engineers whose cities have crumbled into dust? If so, Baigong would be one of the last traces of their existence, a fossilized reminder that history might be far older than we think. Even modern archaeologists struggle with the implications. Our textbooks say organized human civilization began around 6,000 years ago. Yet here we have metalwork potentially dated back more than 100,000 years. If the dating is correct, it changes everything. It means intelligent beings were building, designing, and creating on Earth, while modern humans were still learning to make fire. So maybe Baigong isn't just a mystery, it's a message. A reminder that our planet has stories written in iron and stone. Stories that challenge what we think we know. Whether the pipes are ancient machinery, alien relics, or a trick of nature, one thing is certain. They exist, and we can't fully explain them. And perhaps that's the most fascinating part. Not every secret is meant to be solved. Some are meant to make us look up at the stars, or deep beneath our feet, and wonder what other impossible traces of the past still lie hidden, waiting to be found. The Stone Spheres of Costa Rica, the lost code of the ancients. Deep in the lush rainforests of Costa Rica, hidden beneath layers of vines and centuries of soil, lie hundreds of stone spheres, perfectly round, impossibly smooth, and scattered as if placed by invisible hands. Some rest quietly in museum gardens, others still sleep beneath the earth, waiting for the day sunlight touches them again. These are the Diki spheres, one of the most enduring archaeological enigmas ever discovered. The first of these mysterious stones were unearthed in the 1930s, when the United Fruit Company began clearing land for banana plantations in the Diki's Delta. As the bulldozers tore through the jungle, workers stumbled upon massive gray orbs rising from the soil. At first, they thought they had discovered buried treasure or sacred relics. They tried to crack them open with sledgehammers and dynamite, hoping gold might spill out. But inside, there was nothing, only solid stone. When word spread, archaeologists and scientists arrived astonished by what they saw. Some of the spheres were as small as a baseball, others larger than a man. The biggest weighed more than 15 tons, yet each one was almost perfectly spherical with errors of less than 2 millimeters. And here was the true mystery. They had been made over 1,000 years ago, long before the region had metal tools or advanced measuring devices. How could an ancient civilization achieve such precision with nothing but stone tools? Who carved them? And most puzzling of all, why? The Dakis people, who once thrived in this region between 700 and 1500 CE, left no written records. Their cities vanished, their temples crumbled, and their language faded from memory. The only clues they left behind were these silent spheres scattered across the land like cosmic breadcrumbs. Some of the stones were found arranged in lines and geometric patterns, triangles, circles, even spirals, aligned with the sun's path or pointing toward distant mountains. Could they have been part of an astronomical calendar? Others suggest they marked the residences of powerful chiefs, symbols of status and authority. But there's something deeper here, something almost intentional in how they were placed, as if meant to communicate, not decorate. Let's pause for a moment and think about the effort involved. The stone used, granodiorite, is not found in the Dakis Delta. The nearest quarries are over 50 miles away, across rugged hills and dense forests. Imagine hauling a 15-ton boulder through that terrain, without wheels, without beasts of burden, using only wooden rollers, vines, and sheer human strength. Then imagine carving it, smoothing it, shaping it, until it becomes so perfectly round that even modern engineers have to stop and stare. To shape stone with such accuracy would require knowledge of geometry, balance, and measurement, almost beyond belief for that era. Some researchers believe the builders used molds or rotating scaffolds, turning the stone as they ground it evenly. But no tools or workshops have ever been found. Others think they may have used the stars as guides, rolling the spheres over time until they matched celestial motion. The spheres also carry no carvings or inscriptions, no hint of names, dates, or meaning, just pure form. It's as if their perfection is the message. Legends among the local people tell different stories. Some say the spheres were the work of the gods, who used them as weapons of thunder, hurling them from the heavens to destroy evil. Others claim they once contained magical liquids that gave eternal life, and when those who coveted immortality tried to open them, the power vanished. A few stories tell of the ancient Cherokee people who came from the stars, bringing with them the knowledge of shaping stone using fire and sound. To them, the spheres symbolized planets, the balance of the cosmos captured in stone. And this is where modern theories start to drift into the unknown. Some alternative researchers suggest the spheres are remnants of a global lost civilization, evidence that people thousands of years ago shared advanced knowledge of geometry and magnetism. The same geometry, they argue, seen in the pyramids of Egypt, the stonework of Peru, and even the megaliths of Easter Island. Could the Dakis spheres be another chapter in that forgotten global story? Satellite mapping has revealed something remarkable. When plotted together, the known sphere sites form lines that appear to align with the movements of the sun during solstices and equinoxes. Coincidence or deliberate design? Some even correspond with magnetic anomalies in the Earth below, leading a few scientists to wonder if the builders understood the Earth's natural energy fields. In 2014, UNESCO recognized the spheres as a World Heritage Site, calling them exceptional examples of the complexity of pre-Columbian societies. Yet, even with official study, their purpose remains elusive. Archaeologists have categorized them, measured them, dated them, but none can say with certainty why they exist. There's another layer of mystery. Many spheres were moved from their original locations, either by plantation workers decades ago or by collectors who took them to cities and museums. Some were rolled into rivers or lost entirely. Because of this, researchers may never know their original arrangements or the meaning those alignments once held. However, a few untouched sites still remain deep in the Dequis Delta, hidden under vegetation and earth. In those untouched clusters, archaeologists discovered that the spheres seem to have been placed with mathematical precision, forming triangles and straight lines that could mark astronomical events, territorial boundaries, or even star maps. One such site, Finca 6, revealed several spheres aligned perfectly toward the sunrise on the day of the equinox. On that day, the morning light touches each stone in sequence, as if igniting an ancient countdown. That can't be accidental. Someone understood the rhythm of the cosmos, and these spheres were their way of recording it. But what's even more extraordinary is their surface finish. Many are polished so smoothly that they reflect light. To achieve that on hard granite without metal tools would take enormous time, weeks or months per stone. Some researchers believe the process itself had spiritual significance, each sphere created as an offering, a representation of the balance between heaven and earth. Now, imagine an ancient ceremony. Dozens of people standing in a clearing at sunrise, the air filled with the scent of burning resin, drums echoing through the jungle. In the center, the newly finished sphere glows under the first light of day. It's not just an artifact. It's alive with purpose. To its creators, it might have represented the sun, the earth, or even the soul's journey after death. There's another intriguing aspect. Many of the spheres were intentionally buried in pairs or groups, sometimes under mounds or near old village centers. It's possible they were placed to guard sacred grounds or mark entrances to ceremonial paths. But over centuries, floods, vegetation, and colonization erased those contexts. What we find now are just fragments of what once might have been a vast spiritual network spanning the entire delta. Some modern engineers have tried to recreate the process. They used traditional stone carving methods with hammerstones and sand polishing. The results? After weeks of labor, they could barely achieve a rough sphere, nowhere near the precision of the ancient originals. That's when the question becomes unavoidable. What knowledge did these people possess that we don't? There's even speculation that the spheres were used as a form of geodetic system, a way to measure distances across the land. When plotted together, some sites seem to fall along geometric ratios similar to those used in sacred architecture elsewhere in the world. Could the Dequis have understood mathematics in ways history never recorded? In the 1970s, a few of the spheres were studied for magnetic properties. Some appeared to show faint polarization, as if magnetized during their creation. Though the results were inconclusive, it added one more piece to the puzzle. Were they merely decorative, or tools for something greater? Standing before them today, it's hard not to feel their silent power. Time has softened their surfaces, moss creeps along their sides, yet they remain unbroken, unyielding. They have survived earthquakes, floods, and centuries of oblivion. Still perfect, still mysterious. The people who made them are gone, their secrets buried with them. But their craftsmanship whispers a truth that transcends time. That there was once a civilization here capable of extraordinary things. Perhaps that's what the spheres truly represent. Not just mystery, but memory. The memory of a people who understood balance, symmetry, and harmony with the earth itself. And as the world modernizes, as jungles give way to cities, these ancient stones remind us of something we often forget. that perfection is not always born from machines. It can also come from hands guided by devotion, patience, and purpose. Every sphere is a story written in silence. And maybe, just maybe, if we listen long enough, they'll tell us who we really were before history began writing itself. The Ulfbert sword, forged beyond time. Imagine holding a weapon so far ahead of its time that it shouldn't even exist. A sword that defies logic, history, and metallurgy. A weapon so perfect that scientists, blacksmiths, and historians have spent centuries trying to figure out how it was made. This isn't a myth. This is the Ulfbert sword, the real-life blade that shouldn't have been possible in the Viking Age. Picture it. Northern Europe, more than 1,000 years ago. The world was still dark, cold, and dangerous. The Vikings ruled the seas with their longships, raiding, trading, and carving fear into every coastline they touched. Most warriors carried simple iron swords, brittle and dull, breaking often in battle. But then, among those same ranks, there appeared a blade so pure, so light, and so sharp, it sliced through chainmail like paper. Its name? Ulfbert. You see, the thing about this sword is that it wasn't just a good weapon. It was impossibly good. Modern scientists say it was made from steel so pure, it wouldn't appear again in Europe for nearly 1,000 years. Not until the Industrial Revolution. The metal in these swords, known as crucible steel, required temperatures of nearly 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit to make. Temperatures no Viking forge should have been able to reach. Yet somehow, someone did it. And here's the twist. Each Ulfbert sword was engraved with a single word across its blade. Plus Ulfbert. Some think that was the name of a blacksmith. Others believe it was more like a brand, a mark of divine craftsmanship. Maybe even a sacred secret passed through generations. Whatever the truth is, one thing's certain. When a warrior carried a real Ulfbert, everyone knew it. Now, historians first stumbled upon these blades in the 1800s, buried deep in Viking graves. Since then, more than 170 have been found across Europe. But not all of them are real. Some are fakes, copies made by less skilled smiths trying to ride the reputation of the original. You can actually tell the difference. The real ones have that flawless steel, shining even after 1,000 years underground. The fakes, on the other hand, rusted and cracked. They're metal full of impurities. So here's the question that's haunted experts for decades. How could a Viking with basic tools and primitive forges create something that required the precision of modern science? Let's slow down for a second. During the 9th century, Europe's metalworkers were still figuring out how to control carbon in iron. Most swords of that era were made from what's called bloomery steel, a rough, uneven material smelted at low temperatures. It worked, but barely. Those swords bent, broke, and dulled easily. Yet Ulfbert steel was on a completely different level. Scientists testing fragments found carbon levels almost identical to modern high-grade steel. That means whoever forged it had to melt the iron completely, remove slag impurities, and control carbon input with near-perfect accuracy. That's not medieval skill, that's industrial science. So what's the theory? Some believe the Vikings didn't actually make the steel. They might have traded for it, imported it from somewhere far to the east, maybe from Persia or even India, where crucible steel known as woots was already being made. That's possible since the Vikings traveled far beyond what most people imagine. They reached as far as Constantinople, Baghdad, even deep into Asia. So yeah, they could have stumbled upon this high-tech metal and then branded it as their own. But still, importing steel is one thing. Forging it into a sword so flawless that it outlasted empires, that's another story. Because these blades weren't just made of good metal, They were made with genius. Perfect balance, uniform edges, flexible but unbreakable. Even with Wootz steel, you'd need extraordinary control to make something like that. It's almost as if whoever made the Ulfbert had knowledge far beyond the rest of the world. Knowledge that shouldn't have existed then. And here's the weirdest part. The Ulfbert inscription itself. On some swords, the letters are spelled differently, plus Ulfbert HT, plus Ulfbert's plus, or even slightly distorted versions. It's as if several people tried to copy the same name, but didn't quite know how. Kind of like ancient counterfeiting. Some even believe the original Ulfbert wasn't a person at all, but a symbol, a code passed through secret blacksmith guilds, maybe linked to monasteries or mysterious orders that protected forbidden knowledge. Think about it. During that time, most of Europe's literacy was locked inside monasteries. If someone there had access to ancient Roman or Eastern texts about metallurgy, they might have rediscovered lost techniques. Maybe Ulfbert was one of them, a monk, a craftsman, someone who knew secrets from civilizations long gone, secrets that even kings couldn't comprehend. But that's not all. In 2011, a modern blacksmith named Richard Furrer tried to recreate the Ulfbert sword using traditional tools. No electricity, no modern machinery. It took him months of trial and error, using iron, carbon, and extreme heat. When he finally succeeded, he said it was one of the hardest things he'd ever done. The temperature had to be precise. One mistake and the blade would shatter. When he finished, his sword matched the real Ulfbert almost perfectly. But here's the kicker. He used knowledge we've only rediscovered in the last century. So how did someone 1,000 years ago pull it off so effortlessly? Some people say divine inspiration. Others whisper about lost civilizations, maybe survivors of older, more advanced cultures whose knowledge slipped through history. It sounds crazy, but the evidence keeps hinting that the ancients knew more than we give them credit for. You know, every time archaeologists think they've understood the Vikings, something like this appears and flips the story upside down. The Ulfbert sword is like a fingerprint, proof that our ancestors might have had access to secrets that time tried to erase. There's even a darker angle to it. Some theories claim that Ulfbert wasn't just a swordsmith, but the head of a cult or a secret brotherhood that guarded knowledge of fire and metal. Maybe the plus symbols around the name weren't decorative. Maybe they were sacred signs, ancient marks of protection, or warnings. If you think about it, each sword was almost like a ritual object, perfectly made, buried with its owner, never to be used again. Almost like the maker didn't want the technology to spread. And that brings us to something even more mysterious. After the 11th century, the Ulfbert swords vanish completely, gone from history. No records, no successors, no one claiming the name again. The technology disappears for nearly 800 years. If it was just a regular steelmaking method, someone would have kept it going. But nope, gone, as if erased. So what happened? Did the knowledge die with one man? Was it destroyed intentionally? Or did it come from somewhere we still can't trace? A source that simply stopped existing? Whatever the case, the sudden disappearance of such advanced metallurgy doesn't make sense. Not unless it wasn't meant to continue. There's also something else. The way the swords were distributed. Most were found in graves belonging to elite warriors or nobles, buried deep with treasures. It's almost like these swords weren't just weapons. They were symbols. Keys, maybe, to something larger. Some archaeologists even noticed runes and hidden marks etched into the tang, the part of the sword hidden inside the handle. Marks no one would ever see. Why carve them there? Were they charms? Signatures? Coordinates? No one knows. It's those tiny, hidden details that make historians go insane trying to decode what was going on. And the more you think about it, the stranger it gets. Because if Vikings had mastered crucible steel, even by accident, Europe would have entered the modern age centuries earlier. They could have revolutionized weaponry, tools, construction, everything. But that didn't happen. Which means maybe they weren't the ones who really made it. Maybe someone gave it to them. There are a few out there theories that the steel came from traders connected to the Silk Road, who carried lost knowledge from India or Persia to the north. Or even more bizarre, that the Ulfbert swords are remnants of an even older civilization, long vanished, whose technology occasionally reappears like a whisper in history. You know, like Atlantis or the mythic Hyperborea. Sounds crazy, but sometimes history is crazy. And you can't ignore one chilling fact. Each Ulfbert sword feels deliberate. The perfection wasn't random. The symmetry, the balance, the chemical purity, everything feels designed. Purposeful. Whoever made them wanted them to endure, to be remembered, to stand as proof of what humans or something else could do. Today, when you see one of these blades in a museum, it doesn't even look old. It gleams, smooth, untouched by time. It's like the sword itself refuses to die. That's the haunting beauty of it. 1,000 years later, it still mocks our assumptions about the past. So the next time someone says the ancients were primitive, just remember the Ulfbert, a sword that shouldn't exist, a blade forged beyond its time, maybe a whisper from a forgotten age, reminding us that history isn't written only in books. Sometimes it's hidden in steel. The Roman dodecahedron. Have you ever held something in your hand and felt like it shouldn't exist? That it belongs to a world that we barely understand? That's exactly the feeling historians get every time they look at a Roman dodecahedron. It looks small, harmless even, like a toy at first glance. But the deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. So let's get into it. Okay, picture this. You're exploring the remains of the Roman Empire. You expect the usual things: coins, swords, pottery, statues. But suddenly, you find this bronze object, a hollow shape with 12 perfectly formed pentagonal faces, each face with a hole carved dead center. Not one hole, but 12, all different sizes, all deliberate. And sticking out from each corner, little knobs, like handles or connection points, or who even knows. And here's the wild part. We don't know what it does. We have over 100 of these found across Europe, from England to Italy, Belgium to Germany, and every single one is a mystery. No engraved instructions, no Latin inscriptions, no carvings, nothing. Not a single ancient writer described them. No official name in history. We just call them dodecahedrons because that's the math shape. A 12-sided puzzle from ancient engineering. Archaeologists stare at them like, what were you used for? A weapon? A measuring tool? A ritual device? A symbol of something powerful? How did people back then use this strange object? And why is it found only in outer parts of the Roman Empire? Like something spread secretly, never for the general public. Now let's pause. Imagine this for a second. You're living in the Roman Empire. Life depends on order and structure. Everything has purpose. Food, clothing, tools, gods, all labeled, all known. But here's something that doesn't fit. Something intentionally created, but completely unexplained. It's like a glitch in the matrix of history. Okay, now pay attention to this detail. These dodecahedrons are crafted with impressive precision. Each hole is a different size, perfectly circular. The bronze casting smooth, the geometry accurate. This isn't a toy you hand to kids. This took knowledge, money, and effort. Someone with skill, someone trained, built this. Why? Now here's where the theories start going crazy. Some scholars suggest it was a measuring tool, something that could gauge distance or calculate angles in military formations. like Roman commanders using it to adjust catapults. Maybe lining up archers or artillery. Maybe rotating it and determining the best angle for a shot. It sounds logical, right? Well, here's the issue. If that were true, why is it only found in the northern provinces and not in major Roman military centers? And also, no soldier ever wrote about them. They wrote everything about war, but not this. Strange. Another theory suggests it was used for knitting. Yes, knitting. Gloves specifically. The idea is you would thread wool through the holes to size fingers. That sounds ridiculous at first, but then people tested it, and guess what? It actually works. You can create perfectly fitted gloves with it. But think about that. Bronze is expensive. Why waste such precious metal just to make gloves? And why not find even one glove or artwork showing someone doing this? Why keep it secret? Pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine you are in ancient Rome, priests gathering for a ritual, a sacred ceremony. Dodecahedrons placed on altars. The number 12 is symbolic. Months, zodiac gods, the holes lined up to observe something. Astrological, perhaps. What if these weren't practical tools at all, but sacred objects used for predicting the future, reading the stars or seasons? Only the elite or priests allowed to understand their meaning. Suddenly, the lack of written records makes sense. Secrets are rarely written down. And guess what? Many dodecahedrons are discovered near temples or inside ritual sites. Not in workshops, not in farms, not in military camps. That alone creates a huge question. Are we touching something spiritual that ancient Rome erased over time? Some practice that was hidden, destroyed, or forgotten? Do we hold forbidden knowledge in these tiny bronze sculptures? Okay, let's build the tension here. One moment you think you got it. Then you find another fact that flips the whole thing upside down. Archaeologists never found two dodecahedrons that are exactly alike. Not one. Every single one has different hole sizes, designs, knob shapes. If it were a standardized measuring tool, they would be identical, like rulers or coins. If it were a toy, they would look less complex. So we are left with something tailored, made uniquely, like each one had meaning to a specific owner. A personal artifact with a secret use. And here's something even crazier. Roman citizens didn't know about them. Most were found in regions of the empire that were occupied territories, Celtic and Germanic lands. Could it be a fusion? Roman technology built for or inspired by local pagan beliefs. Could it be that this mysterious object wasn't Roman at all, but a lost local invention absorbed into the empire? /parentheses. Picture this. You're a Roman leader ruling foreign tribes. You want control. You want predictability. What's the best way? Find something they worship, something they use for power, and incorporate it into your culture. Could the dodecahedron be a ritual tool used to communicate with gods or ancestors? Perhaps even used to decide important matters like harvest, battles, or seasons. Think about this. The alignment of the holes could match star patterns. The knobs could represent constellations. Some experiments show that when you hold a candle or light inside, you can project shapes on walls, almost like an ancient projector or a cosmic calculator for tracking the sun during certain months. Eerie, right? Or how about this possibility? This could be part of ancient magic. We know Romans believed deeply in omens, supernatural signs, and charms. Maybe priests rotated the dodecahedron and interpreted which hole sunlight passed through. Or maybe liquids like oil or wine were poured through certain holes for fortune-telling. That's not impossible. Not in those times. Now here's where your brain starts melting. These objects just stopped appearing at some point around the 3rd century CE. No transition, no simpler versions, no upgraded forms. They just vanished. A tool or symbol completely disappearing. What wipes out an entire design that was clearly important? Something dramatic. Maybe the rise of a new belief that banned old rituals. Or maybe a catastrophic event erased the people who understood its purpose. When knowledge dies, objects become artifacts, empty shells of forgotten genius. Imagine a future archaeologist finds your smartphone, but no one remembers electricity. They'd call it a ritual stone, or a symbolic rectangle, or a measuring device. That's how insane history can be. We only know what the survivors cared to leave behind. So what if the Roman dodecahedron was once a key technology? Something advanced for its time, knowledge we simply can't decode now. Take a breath. Let your mind wander a bit. Something this precise doesn't appear randomly. It either served a hidden elite science or a hidden elite belief. And both of those freeze your spine. Because it means knowledge once existed that someone deliberately wiped out. So what is it really? A star map? A battlefield calculator? A sacred key? A magical tool? A lost invention for a purpose we can't even imagine? Maybe it's all of them or none of them. But here's one thing I can say without doubt. The Roman dodecahedron stands as one of history's boldest mysteries. A message from the past whispering that ancient humans were far smarter, far more complex than we give them credit for, and that there are pieces of history that are missing on purpose. And the most disturbing thought of all, someone out there might still know its true purpose. Someone who never shared the secret, because some knowledge was never meant for everyone. All right, explorers, before we jump into the next insane discovery, take just 1 second and tap that subscribe button so you never miss these hidden history drops. And hey, drop your theory in the comments. Do you think ancient civilizations were way more advanced than what we're told? Or do you think we're uncovering knowledge they wanted lost forever? Either way, I love reading your ideas, so don't be shy. Okay, ready? Let's keep going, because the next mystery is even crazier. The Baghdad star maps? There are moments in history where you stop and think, wait, that can't be right. There's no way ancient people had something like this. And the Baghdad star maps are one of those moments that make you wonder if we've been lied to about the past. So let's dive right in. Imagine this. You're digging through old archives in Baghdad, Iraq, a city with layers and layers of history. Empires rising, empires collapsing, knowledge gained, then erased. Then suddenly, you stumble upon something that shouldn't exist. A set of star charts, inscribed on clay tablets, thousands of years old. Stars mapped with such accuracy that even modern astronomers raise their eyebrows. And the first question that hits you is simple. Take a moment. Think about this. These are not drawings of random stars scattered in the sky. These maps show exact positions, exact groupings, exact constellations. Even stars not visible to the naked human eye. Some of these objects require advanced optical tools to observe, which by mainstream history didn't exist. Not for ancient Mesopotamian civilizations. Not even close. Yet here we are, holding evidence that they somehow saw what they shouldn't have seen. Let the thought soak in for a second. What if ancient humans weren't just staring at the sky? What if they studied it with technology we assume didn't exist? What if the timeline of human advancement is wrong by thousands of years? Okay, let's move closer. These maps aren't newly discovered. We found them in multiple archaeological sites around ancient Babylon and Sumer civilizations, dating back 4,000 to 5,000 years before today. Some even older. They're carved with cuneiform writing and precise celestial markings, like someone took a snapshot of the universe and decided to record it permanently on clay. And here's the kicker. The accuracy of these maps aligns with modern astrophysical data, meaning if you fed these coordinates into a planetarium program, the sky would match. Not today's sky, but the sky from thousands of years ago. They knew about precession, the gradual shift of Earth's axis, something we only rediscovered scientifically in the last few centuries. They tracked it, they measured it, they predicted it. Pause right here. Ask yourself, how many people today could even explain precession properly? Yet, people 5,000 years ago not only understood it, they calculated it. But how? Now listen closely. Some tablets specifically show the star system Pleiades, Sirius, Orion. Not shocking because those are bright and important stars. But then there are smaller, dimmer stars. Stars so faint, you would need telescopes to identify them. And that's where experts reach a dead end. Because telescopes were invented in the 1600s. So how did Mesopotamians observe deep space 4,000 years earlier? Either they had technology that never survived, or someone taught them. Something or someone advanced. Breathe! That thought alone is enough to make anyone stare into the night sky differently. But here's another twist. Some of the maps don't just show planets and stars. They show movement, trajectories, cycles, predictions. They chart the paths of celestial bodies over long periods. That means these ancient astronomers observed for generations. They weren't guessing, they were documenting. They were aware of cosmic mechanics. That takes discipline. That takes intelligence. That takes knowledge, passed down carefully, almost secretly. This leads to a chilling piece of history. Mesopotamians believed their knowledge came from gods, from beings who descended from the sky, the Anunnaki. Maybe myth, maybe not. But why did they choose gods from the sky? Why stars? Why astronomy as their core science? Imagine you're alive back then. Night skies are pure, black and endless. No light pollution. Stars like diamonds. You look up and maybe you feel like someone is looking back. Something guiding you with patterns and codes. And these star maps, they weren't just scientific. They were used to rule. Calendars, agriculture, religious ceremonies, and even the fate of kings. Every major decision tied to the heavens, as if rulers answered not to humans, but to celestial authority. Take a moment to think about what that means. Their power was not from Earth. Their laws came from stars. Now, here comes an even more unsettling thought. Some tablets depict anomalies, unidentified objects, celestial bodies moving in ways known planets don't. They chart points that appear, then disappear, like visitors traveling through our solar system and leaving no trace except on these ancient records. Were these comets? Were they asteroids? Or were they something else? Something engineered? Something intelligent? The maps don't say, but they hint. They tease our curiosity and fear at the same time. And check this. Many maps align with constellations, particularly important to human mythology around the world. Orion, Sirius, the Pleiades. These same stars are carved into ancient temples in Egypt, Mexico, Japan, and even among Native American tribes, separated by oceans, separated by time. Yet the same stars, the same significance, the same obsession. Why? What if ancient civilizations were receiving the same knowledge from a common source? A global teacher? A lost advanced culture wiped out from history? Or something non-human? Let your mind expand for a second. History as we know it is fragile. It depends on what survived. Wars, disasters, kings rewriting stories. And Baghdad. Well, Baghdad was the center of knowledge, the house of wisdom. Scholars from Asia, Africa, and Europe gathered, studying everything: astronomy, mathematics, philosophy. But then came invasion. Libraries burned, knowledge erased. forever lost? What if the Baghdad star maps we have now are only a fraction of what once existed? What if the real answers disappeared in flames, leaving us with enough clues to be confused, but not enough to reveal the full truth? And here's the creepiest part. Some of these star charts accurately show the tilt of Earth's axis across time, a phenomenon that requires observing thousands of years. And yet, these tablets appear suddenly in history. No earlier scribbles, no learning curve. They just appear fully formed, as if someone handed that knowledge to them in one go. No development, no trial and error, just instant mastery. That shouldn't be possible. C. From the possibility. Unless the knowledge was inherited, not invented. Now think about this. In every part of ancient Mesopotamian life, the heavens guided them. Their calendars, their temples aligned perfectly with celestial events. Their ziggurats shaped like mountains, designed as stairways for gods descending from the stars. What if those stairways were only metaphorical? What if they were built for someone who actually came down? Look around today. Humans still search the universe for answers. We build telescopes, satellites, rovers, even planning to leave Earth. Yet 4,000 years ago, a civilization already believed they were connected to the cosmos, already mapping the stars, already watching the sky like it held their origins. Maybe we're not the first. Maybe we're the ones trying to rediscover what was already known and lost. Period. The Baghdad star maps whisper a message, and the message is loud. Ancient humans were not primitive. They were informed. They were connected to something greater, something we still don't fully understand. There are gaps in history where knowledge appears far too advanced for its time. And those gaps suggest that maybe our story doesn't begin where we think it does. Period. Maybe Earth has been visited before. Maybe civilization rises, falls, and rises again. Maybe there are chapters missing from humanity's book, pages torn out or buried on purpose, because some truths are too powerful, too disruptive. One final question to leave you thinking. Were these maps simply early astronomy, or were they a record, a reminder, a warning, left by someone who wanted future generations like us to look up and question who really taught the first humans how to read the sky? Because if these star maps are real and accurate, then the ancient world was far more advanced than we give it credit for. And the stars may hold a bigger secret about us than we're ready to accept. The giant Saqqara. Imagine walking deep under the desert sands of Egypt. Not into a glowing tourist tomb or a place covered with colorful hieroglyphs, but into a strange underground labyrinth that feels more like a futuristic bunker than an ancient burial site. Your footsteps echo off smooth limestone walls, and you feel the weight of the earth above you. You keep going down, and then, suddenly, towering before you are giant stone sarcophagi the size of trucks. Perfectly smooth, perfectly shaped, mechanical in their precision, and carved from one of the hardest stones known to man. Welcome to the Serapeum of Saqqara. This isn't your usual pyramid mystery. This is something else, something that feels out of time, out of place. So let's talk about it, like humans actually discovering something insane together. Because this underground complex is not just an old tomb. It is a puzzle that continues to shock archaeologists, engineers, and anyone who studies ancient construction. These massive stone boxes are way too precise, way too advanced, and honestly, way too impossible for the tools we think the ancient Egyptians had. Each one of these black granite giants weighs around 70 tons. 70 tons. Just think about that for a moment. How did they even move them down narrow corridors cut into solid bedrock? The ceilings are low at some places, The turns are sharp. This was not built for giant cargo to easily slide in. So the real question begins right there. Why would anyone carve a box that huge above ground, then somehow drag it deep under the earth to hide it? And for what purpose? People will tell you the official explanation right away. These were built for the sacred Apis bulls, animals worshipped as living gods on earth. A big burial for a big animal. Okay, fine. But do you really need engineering perfection that rivals laser cutting just to bury a cow? Come on. Something about that feels like a convenient label slapped on something we do not understand. And the deeper you look, the stranger it gets. The surfaces of these sarcophagi, inside and out, are so flat that when modern engineers tested them, they were shocked. Like, this is machining level accuracy, less than a millimeter off across huge surfaces. Whoever carved these stones wasn't guessing with hammers. They were measuring exactly, repeatedly. And that lid, my God, the lids. Each lid weighs around 30 tons by itself. 30 tons. You cannot casually lift that. You cannot push that. You cannot move that without extremely advanced lifting systems. And yet somehow, the ancient builders lowered them into place perfectly. Not crooked, not chipped, not hanging off one side. Perfect, like a giant piece of puzzle clicking right into its home slot. You see why people start thinking twice about the timeline we've been taught. Because when you have a structure that looks engineered instead of sculpted, something flips in your mind. It feels like someone with advanced knowledge of geometry tools, leverage, and extreme precision made these. And then they left no instruction manual, no blueprint, nothing explaining why or how. Just the results standing here silently mocking the idea that ancient people were primitive. Keep walking with me mentally. You enter a chamber. A flashlight is the only thing breaking the darkness. And the first time you aim that beam at one of those giant boxes, your brain automatically asks, is this really for a bull? These things feel more like safe vaults than coffins. They feel like containers built to isolate something powerful or dangerous. Their corners are so sharp that your fingers could slide along them like the edge of a metal cabinet. What primitive workers working in pitch darkness could achieve that perfectly? And how long would that take with copper chisels? Spoiler, copper doesn't cut granite. It cries in pain. Granite wins every time. So, what was really going on underground at Saqqara? What kind of mystery hides inside these impossible boxes? There is another thing. Try to picture the entire logistics of this place. First, you quarry the granite far away, like Aswan, which is hundreds of kilometers south. Then, you somehow move 70-ton blocks across the Nile Valley. No cranes, no forklifts, no steel cables. Just ropes, wooden sledges, and manpower. Then you lower them into a narrow underground tunnel system, without cracking them. And then polish every surface smooth like a mirror. And they are not all perfectly identical, but they definitely follow a specific pattern. A formula. Someone was working from a plan. A sophisticated plan. What if we flip the idea? Maybe the bulls were a later addition. The original purpose could be much older. Something so ancient that later Egyptians simply reused it because it was already there and it looked sacred. Many archaeologists believe parts of Saqqara are far older than the dynasties written in the history books. And these boxes might be remnants of a time before the known pharaohs. A lost knowledge period. A civilization we forgot. One that could shape stone the way we shape steel. Let's pause for a second. Imagine a world before recorded memory, before writing, before kings. What if those people built using tech we cannot even understand today? It's uncomfortable to think about, but these boxes force us to confront that possibility. Because if your tools are copper and your workforce is farmers with teamwork, You do not carve mathematical granite sarcophagi with 90-degree flawless angles. These are not experiments. These are mastery. Now let's get a little weirder. Some engineers believe the internal measurements of the boxes follow certain acoustic and resonance properties. Like these could have been used to store something that vibrated or generated energy. Maybe they were not graves, but machines, devices, resonators, power containers. I'm not saying it's definitely alien tech, but come on. Giant granite vaults buried underground. Sounds like something you do when you're managing forces you don't want loose on the surface. Think also about the placement. Underground tunnels plus heavy granite boxes lined up in sequence. What if they were arranged to reflect something? Sound frequency, earth vibrations, magnetic fields. Imagine ancient engineers studying the earth as a living machine. Deep places were special because the ground itself carried power. Maybe they built these to amplify or control it. We cannot see the blueprint, but someone did. And the most frustrating part of this entire site, they are empty. Absolutely empty. No mummies, no bowls, no inscriptions. Nothing to tell a story. It feels like someone erased the evidence or someone took whatever was once inside and left only the shells behind. Clean, silent, enigmatic. Like a hard drive with all the information deleted. Just a container with no hint of what was stored inside. We always call mysteries unexplainable until we find evidence that shatters our comfort zone. The giant Saqqara boxes sit in that uncomfortable zone. They challenge us to rethink time, rethink the past, rethink what humans were capable of. Modern engineers still scratch their heads trying to replicate something like this under the same conditions. Could you do it? No steel, no electricity, no precision cutting machines. Just manpower and hope. If someone in the present tried exactly the same method, it would take decades. And still the results would not look this perfect. So your brain starts whispering, what if ancient Egypt wasn't just one civilization? What if parts of Egypt contain ruins from a forgotten age that the later pharaohs inherited? They worshipped gods who maybe were just what remained of that older civilization's technology. And because they did not understand it, they called it divine. The Egyptians were geniuses, no doubt. But this feels like genius squared, or genius built on genius that came before them. When you accept that possibility, the story becomes bigger, way bigger. Think of this. When these giants were first discovered in the mid-1800s, people didn't even realize what they were looking at. They thought it was random. Then explorers kept uncovering perfectly cut stone boxes, one after another. Like someone built many prototypes, or had multiple things to store. Why multiple? Why in a row like a row of super secure vaults? Something was organized and systematic. That's not religious chaos, that's engineering logic. Sometimes I like to imagine what the builders were thinking. They weren't like, oh yeah, let's bury a bull in a perfect granite vault we spent months shaping. No, they had a reason. A real reason. The kind of reason that keeps engineers awake at night until they solve a problem. They weren't decorating, they were protecting something. Or containing something. We always assume ancient people would write everything on walls. But what if the original builders didn't need to? Maybe they assumed their knowledge would continue. Maybe they never expected a collapse. Maybe something happened suddenly. Civilization reset, and only the structures survived. People love to tease that ancient mysteries are exaggerated, but when you see a 70-ton perfectly carved granite box underground with no inscriptions, your brain should say, no, this is not normal. Not even for Egypt. This is like discovering a Formula One car in a farm barn from ancient times. You can't ignore it and pretend it's just a fancy wheat cart. Imagine you place your hand on the cold, polished granite, and feel the smoothness that shouldn't exist. You look at the sharp angles. You see the floor beneath your feet worn from time. You hear nothing but your breath, and then it hits you. You are touching something built with intelligence that feels advanced, not primitive. Something made by a culture, not just strong and organized, but scientifically capable. So here's the final thought that keeps this mystery alive. If the boxes are the remains of some lost mastery, what else has disappeared? What other technologies and knowledge were wiped out long before we arrived? Are we the first advanced humans, or just the first ones after a restart? These boxes feel like a message not written in words, but in shaped stone. A silent reminder whispering beneath the sands. We were smarter than you think. We knew things you don't, and maybe one day you'll understand why. Until then, the giant Saqqara will remain a dark underground question mark. A challenge to archaeologists, a nightmare to engineers, and one of the strongest pieces of evidence suggesting the past is not what the book says. We are still uncovering, still learning, still humbled, because those ancient hands left behind something impossible. And impossible things demand answers. But Saqqara is not talking. It patiently waits, buried in the desert, holding secrets deeper than the tunnels themselves. And that's it for today's journey into the impossible. Ancient artifacts that shouldn't exist, civilizations capable of things we can't even explain today. History is clearly hiding secrets, and we're just scratching the surface. If you enjoyed this deep dive, smash the like button so more explorers can see this. Make sure you subscribe because we are just getting started. And most importantly, comment your most mind-bending mystery idea for the next video. Thanks for watching, and remember, the past is way stranger than the future we imagine.